Fantastic! Green Gully are on the verge of a major upset.
Adelaide United's inaugural cup winners.
Sydney FC,
They win the cup.
wins the cup for Melbourne victory.
MacArthur FC 2022 Australia Cup champions.
It's the last hope for Western Australia up against Western Sydney Wanderers. Good evening and welcome to Kingsway Reserve in WA as Floreat Athena take on A-League opposition, Western Sydney Wanderers. A very interesting match in prospect. Floreat Athena with great pedigree in this competition, taking it up to A-League opposition, but they are still yet to take a scalp of the full-time professionals. Western Sydney Wanderers have never been further than the semi-finals. It will tonight be the kickstart of their first time winning this trophy. Taking a look at the Floreat lineup, they've actually made 4 changes to the team that played most recently in NPL Western Australia. Hunter comes into goal for their regular number 1, Jason Saldaris, Fuller, Boy, and also Magiat added to the bench as the spare keeper tonight. They are the lowest scoring team in NPL WA. They sit 10th of 12, but that's a little bit misleading given how close the competition actually is. And we'll find out more about Floreat as the game goes on. One player that does have an eye for goal, in fact he scored both the goals against Coburn City that qualified Floreat Athena for the national rounds of the Australia Cup, is Phil Arnold, and he's also got 2 in the league this season, the number 18. Western Sydney Wanderers bring a pretty strong team west. They didn't have a good time against Perth Glory in the A-League away games last season, and so they're not taking any risks tonight. Marcelo wears the captain's armband. Milos Ninkovic plays a day after announcing his contract extension, and Dylan Parias will play for Western Sydney's first team for the first time since moving from Western United. And amongst the new Wanderers faces is Jack Clisby. It's a little ironic that his second Wanderers debut comes in the very state he was plying his trade last season. In fact, he was one of the reasons that Perth Glory had such a good record against Western Sydney Wanderers last A-League season. Now he'll be wearing the red and black instead. And so with Floreat still in their huddle, the Brains Trust on the sidelines, led by Vaso Vujicic there, who's in the shorts on the right. He'll be hoping to mastermind a win tonight. They have taken it up to Adelaide United in 2021. They lost in extra time 3-1. They also lost only 2-1 to Melbourne City in 2016. Lockie Keevers is tonight's referee. He's from Victoria, but he has refereed Sorrento of NPL Western Australia in an FFA Cup tie back in 2017. So he's not completely unfamiliar with players from the West. Marco Rodan and his Brains Trust there. You've got John Paul de Marigny and Jess Van Stratton, amongst others, lining up on the bench. The start of a new campaign after the disappointment of a finals exit in the Sydney Derby last Isuzu Ute A-League men's season. So Brandon Borello, coming off a stunning campaign for the Wanderers, will take kickoff here. And for those of you not familiar with Floreat Athena, they are in the white and blue stripes. Wanderers in the red and black hoops, and ready to go in the round of 32. They've been to this stage 3 times, Floreat Athena. They are yet to get a win on the national stage. Melbourne City, Adelaide Olympic and Adelaide United, the 3 teams to have beaten them in the past. Can they finally take a scalp? Josh Hunter there in goal could be in for a busy night. Lawrence Thomas, will he be a mere spectator, or will the home team take it up to him? Just waiting for the tick-off here to get things started. You can see Sean McManus there is fired up. Wants kick-off to happen as soon as possible, and indeed it does. So we're underway in the Australia Cup round of 32, and joining me in commentary is Phil Moss. Mossy, a very intriguing game, especially because the travel really troubled Western Sydney Wanderers when they went west to play Perth Glory a couple of times last season.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Teo. Great to be alongside you for this one. We love the Cup, don't we? You can feel the atmosphere once again. And we all know that this Cup isn't won on paper. It's won on the pitch, and there's certain logistics that you've got to overcome. For Western Sydney, it is that trip west. But Marco Rudan, no doubt, will be looking for a very professional performance tonight as he continues that Rudan revolution, if you like, at Western Sydney Wanderers.
And of course, we are only a few days removed from Peninsula Power taking the Wellington Phoenix to extra time up in Queensland. So certainly the A-League teams have not looked completely infallible, although if you are watching tonight's coverage on Network 10 across 10 Play and the various other outlets taking each individual stream, you'll know that Western United are currently beating Edgeworth 3-0 as we have Phil Arnold, the man of the moment, getting into a real stoush in the very first minute. They've come here to play.
Oh, haven't they what? And this is the cup. This is what we love about it. Floreat Athena fired up right from the start. They're letting Western Sydney know that they're going to be in for a battle tonight.
If there's one player you're going to wipe out and make a statement, it's Milos Ninkovic. And again, you can't help but think back to 2016 when Bruno Fornaroli picked up a pretty serious injury against Hakoah in a tie not dissimilar to this one, that the A-League teams, they get very nervous when the reducers start flying in early doors.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it's still early doors in the pre-season, so you haven't got your sharpness and your match fitness just yet, whereas these NPL teams, I should say, are obviously deep into their campaigns. But Milos Ninkovic, good to see him back on his feet. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Free kick taken quickly. Can Wanderers respond by opening the scoring? And the ball is blocked away. I mentioned that Floreat have the most goal-shy attack in NPLWA, but even though they sit 10th, they have the third best defence, and that's in a 12-team league. And they are only 6 points out of 4th with 3 games to go. So as much as they currently sit 10th of 12, it's a little misleading. So we see Borello here cutting the ball back. A good save initially, but stroked in for the opener. Easy as you like for Lachlan Brook. And that's not a bad start for him in red and black. Western Sydney Wanderers set down a marker, and the Floreat Athena defence is breached.
Well, that's a perfect start for Western Sydney, isn't it? No surprise that Borello is at the heart of it, and that's a great confidence booster for Brook. Coming into the side for the first time and getting a simple tap in at the far post. That'll settle the nerves for Western Sydney Wanderers, but for all the hustle and bustle from Floreat Athena in those early stages, they let Western Sydney have far too much space on that right-hand side as they set Borello free inside the box, and then it was a simple finish at the far post for Brook.
Well, that does not bode well for the home side here. If you were late getting into the ground, you'd walk in and find the home team already 1-0 down. And, well, not the greatest piece of distribution here is going to invite more pressure on. Wanderers queuing up, and what a good save from Hunter. It was his pass out from the back that caused the problem initially, and now he's come up with a top stop to prevent it being 2-0.
Well, the one thing you don't want to do is overplay against a side like the Wanderers, especially when you've just gone down a goal. You've got to pick and choose your times to play. You can see here the Floreat Athena goalkeeper gets in all sorts of a mess there, gives the ball over for a strike that ended up hitting the crossbar.
So here's the resulting corner. Marcelo tries for the near post flick header, and this time everyone exhale. It's out for a goal kick, but Floreat are under siege in these opening minutes. And Lockie Brook, well, he wasn't a prolific goal scorer at Adelaide United. That is to say, he only scored the one for them in his time in the A-League. And now he's got a cup goal to his name straight away here for Western Sydney Wanderers. And he's currently taken up a midfield role. So who knows, he might be a little bit more prolific in his new surrounds. Marco Rudan looks nonplussed on the sidelines. He's very much keeping it calm in the first 5 minutes. And this is Steele, who's going to go back and use his keeper here.
Well, the one thing Rudan would have demanded from his team before they took the pitch tonight was a professional performance, and they've certainly started that way. Fantastic strike from outside the box. Tom Beadling, by the way, from that gimme from Josh Hunter in goal for the home side. Very unlucky not to find themselves 2-0 to the good.
So the issue for Floreat, Mossy, is that they've scored 23 goals in 19 league games this season, and they weren't exactly prolific, just very efficient in how they qualified for the Australia Cup. They had to play 4 rounds of qualifiers, and that included a 3-1 win against Jaguar, 1-0 against Curtin University, 1-0 against Balcatta Edna, and then 2-1 against Coburn to qualify for the national round. So as we see another hefty challenge fly in, and the Wanderers bench are incensed, and there's afters here, and Alexander Christodolakis has been booked for how he went in there. And it's safe to say that Western Sydney Wanderers are really unhappy with how Floreat are approaching this cup tie.
Yeah, that was overly physical once again from Krista Delakis on Clure as he gets forward. You can see his touch was just a little bit heavy, but that is an awful challenge from Krista Delakis. I think he's very
be more
lucky.
than a yellow.
Well, I think he's very lucky to escape a red card. He's gone high, he's gone in with 2 feet. And no wonder you saw that reaction from the Western Sydney Wanderers bench. Marco Rudan, the last thing he and his staff will want is a serious injury tonight.
I've got to say, I watched in preparation for this game every goal that Floreat had either scored or conceded so far this NPL season, and they did not strike me, Mossy, as a dirty team. They did not strike me as the sort of team that was going to come out and assert this level of physical aggression on Western Sydney Wanderers. So they must be G'd up for this occasion.
Yeah, and you would hope that they don't think their only chance of beating Western Sydney is by turning it into a street fight, because that's certainly not the way you're going to beat Western Sydney with the sort of quality that they've got.
And so now the Wanderers perhaps walking on eggshells a little bit, knowing that ankles and knees could be at risk every time they go in for a 50-50. Parias spins away and feeds the ball back. Marcelo, of course, he's something of an enforcer himself. And now Arnold is not able to keep possession in midfield, neither is Borrello. Arnold gets another chance, but he's just a little bit slow and immediately run down and caught by the backtracking Clure. However, the pass gives the ball away, and it's a chance for Floreat to go forward. And there's a little bit of a response in kind and a yellow card too. Beadling argues his innocence, and I tell you what, it's tit for tat, and Lockie Keevers has signed up for one heck of a task refereeing this one tonight.
Well, I tell you what, Phil Arnold's having a go at Beadling here. He's really got nothing to complain about. I think Beadling gets a bit of the ball there. Nevertheless, it's certainly a little bit of a statement from Western Sydney Wanderers. Don't you worry, we can muscle up when we need to.
And now a set piece. I mentioned the goals that Phil Arnold scored to get Floreat to this round of the competition. Headers and set pieces for a team that is not prolific have been one of the main ways that they do score their goals. But the question is, against this Western Sydney defence, just how pinpoint will the pass have to be? You can see at the far post there, you've got Noah Shamaki and also the number 4, Ben Steele. He's the centre-back. And then buzzing around, the number 14, Ludo Boy. Where's he going to pop up the free kick? Well, you're not going to bring any of your teammates into the game with a ball like that.
Gee, you built that up, Teo, and it was a disappointing end in the product, the final product. And they're the occasions that, if Floreat Athena are going to get anything out of tonight's game, they have to capitalise on set pieces. There's been a helter-skelter start. We've had a couple of yellow cards, one potential red card that wasn't given.
Well, a goal down and a red card in the first minute would have been a disaster for Floreat, but it is only the odd goal. Let's see how aggressively Western Sydney can work through the gears to try and double their lead. Ninkovic. And now in space, the goal scorer, Brook, and he nearly had Clisby breaking through the left, but Ninkovic is going to go and win it back, and he's still getting the physical attention. This time it's Bailey Brown-Montgomery who let him know he was there. Shamaki shuffles it on. Brown-Montgomery has stolen a march down the right. Is this the chance for Floreat? Oh, it flashes through the box. What an opportunity for Robert Petkov, but he just couldn't slide out to the ball.
Gee whiz, if he anticipated that ball just a touch earlier, Petkov would have been on the end of that. That was a fantastic break in transition down the right-hand side. Brown-Montgomery slides a beautiful ball across the face of goal. It just went begging with Petkov lurking.
All right, so go and find Wanderers defence, the number 18, Phil Arnold. He's one of the primary dangers as the ball goes to the near post, and Beadling heads it back out from whence it came. So repeat corners here for Bailey Brown-Montgomery. He's actually the team's top scorer in the NPL this season with just the 5 goals, which perhaps reflects how goal shy they've been. Their second top scorer, Nick Ambrosio, with 4 goals, is actually on the bench. Here comes the corner, 2 in a row, near post, no contest. Wanderers get it away. However, Krista Delakis is able to trap it, and then with an improvised volley, he sends it wide left.
Yeah, there's good pressure on the ball there, just to make sure Krista Delakis Had to rush his shot. The ball didn't quite come down for him. But that'll give the home side some confidence, Teo. Just a little break down the right-hand side. Ball was given up by Milos Ninkovic on the left-hand side for Western Sydney. They broke really quickly, really well. Fantastic ball across the face of goal too by Bailey Brown Montgomery.
And so a fun first 11 minutes, plenty of spice. Western Sydney Wanderers happy to control the tempo of the game when playing it out from the back here. First time ball from Brillante is intercepted once, but following up is Ninkovic, and now Wanderers on the move into open space in midfield. Pareas have to go and chase, and now it will find its way to the feet of Clisby. And a bit of an aggressive touch taken by Brook into the midfield. Beedling goes back to Donny Gurdic. Now Wanderers, Clure didn't like his options on the right, so he goes back to Marcelo.
And this is good from Western Sydney. They need to make the home side chase the ball a little bit, wear them out, move the ball quickly, side to side. It'll certainly help take the sting out of the game a little bit. And surely the quality of Western Sydney will keep rising to the top.
Beautiful touch from Ninkovic, and that set Beedling away on a run. To the right side he goes, ball whipped in. It was hoping for Borello. Clure's cross is successfully defended, and McManus sinks the slipper from the last line of defence. It's kept away from Petkov, who had Marcelo climbing over him. There's enough of a crowd in to cheer and barrack at the referee for a decision for the home team, but it wasn't forthcoming. And now Floreat consolidate on the ball. Andrew Palmer, bit of a risky back pass, sold his goalkeeper Hunter into trouble, and he has to go safety first.
He was taking no risks there, was he, Josh Hunter? And given the ball up for what should have been, could have been, Western Sydney's second goal. If in doubt, kick it out. One of the things that Marco Rudan will be really keen on tonight is that new midfield combination. No Schneiderlin, no Neuenhoff. It's now Brillante, Tom Beedling, of course Milos Ninkovic in the 10 role.
Of course, Callum Neuenhoff, a great success story when Wanderers picked him up and gave him the game time he deserved, but too much of a success. They ended up selling him overseas to Hearts in Scotland, where he made his SPL debut recently. As we see the ball out to the left here, Clisby, natural left footer, swings it in, asking for a volley, and that could have been two for Lockie Brook. It's cleared away in the nick of time.
I think he was in two minds there, Brook, whether to take it first time with a cushion volley or try and take a touch into his path.
Ninkovic. Ball over to the right, beautiful touch by Pareas. Sizes up his options, back to Clure, whipped in first time. Spinning on the near post is Borello, and the slide challenge from Steele is able to dispossess him. Important one-on-one defending there, though. Krista Delakis going back, and just running out of space there was Jesse Fuller right down on the byline, and he's conceded a corner.
Well, that's a really good counter press from Western Sydney there. Floreat Athena having possession of the ball when Western Sydney gave it up. They didn't retreat into shape. They went and pressed the first ball that they could.
So, in the second corner of the night, set-piece routine is not going to find a Wanderers man on the first pass. Ninkovic is there, though. And now knocked out to the right by Brillante. Whipped in and seen out. Not the most convincing or commanding in the air there from Hunter, but he didn't touch the ball, and that means it's going to be a goal kick. All's well that ends well as far as Floreat are concerned.
Well, it didn't look to be giving the goalkeeper any trouble until just at the last there, and it tended to bend very late. Josh Hunter had to have his wits about him and know where his far post was.
It's a shame that neither Jason or Chris Saldaris are involved tonight. We'll come back to that because this header has put Borello into a scoring position. Borello, and he misses the bottom corner. Well, he's still sharpening the tools ahead of the A-League season, because normally you'd back him to score in that situation.
Well, you would, but the tool doesn't look too blunt, to be honest. He took himself wide to try and open the angle for himself. He knew exactly what he was doing. Wasn't too far away, Borello. He's looked very sharp in these opening exchanges, inside the box and outside the box. Some good early signs for the Wanderers.
It's amazing how quickly the first header or the first intercept is turned into a chance on goal. This Wanderers team have done it a couple of times now, and that's when Floreat need to be on the highest alert. Brook here, running away from McManus, back to Clisby. But yes, a shame that neither of the Saldarises are involved. They've got a long history with this Floreat team, and Jason Saldaris, way back in the day, was the #1 goalkeeper at South Melbourne in the Victorian NPL when they were embarking on NPL national finals and FFA Cup for the very first time back in the mid-2010s. But sadly, neither in the lineup tonight, among a few absentees. We've also got a couple of suspensions that have left Dennis Galan out of the team after he was sent off in the most recent NPL West Australia game for Floreat Athena. Wanderers on the move here with Perez, and he can't quite find Brillante.
It's just a little sloppy passage there from Western Sydney. A couple of players caught on the ball, too many touches. It's one thing they don't want to slip into. And when they've kept the ball moving quickly at good speed, the home side haven't been able to get anywhere near them.
Here's Marcelo.
What a leader he was for Western Sydney last season, Marcelo. I think he was one of the signings of the season in the competition. And I do like the way Western Sydney have recruited during the off-season. They've had to do another dressing room rebuild, really, as part of this revolution.
Beadling briefly had a loose touch and then had to win it back off Krista Dulakis, but the ball spills and goes out for a Floreat Athena throw. It's great to see a training session for youngsters going on in the background there. They don't look much older than Mini Roos. They've got the small-sided goals up and going. Football just absolutely does not stop on nights like tonight. 4 Australia Cup ties, training sessions, and of course high anticipation of what's coming next in the Women's World Cup later in the week and into the weekend. As we see this long ball picked off by Lawrence Thomas. Wanderers starting to find gaps in space in the middle of the pitch, but this time it's come unstuck. Krista Dulakis, you can tell that he's not afraid to put himself about even though he's on a yellow card, but perhaps if he didn't have that ticket to his name, Mossy, he'd still be going in with even a bit more fire and brimstone at the moment.
Well, it's good refereeing, isn't it, from Lockie Keevers, just dishing out a few cards early just to stamp his authority on the game.
Here's Perez, runs into a block tackle, but got the ball onto Ninkovic, and it's 2 for Western Sydney. It's 2 for Lockie Brook. This is quite the showing. Incisive passing and a pinpoint finish. And it's, thank you very much, 2-0 to Western Sydney Wanderers.
Well, it's wonderful build-up play from the Wanderers, isn't it? Through midfield, that man there, Perez, was at the heart of it. Plays it wide to Ninkovic, who picks out Brook with a beautiful pinpoint pass inside the area. Great lesson for any young kid. A cross is a pass. If you can pick a player out, and what a start for Lockie Brook. My spies inside Western Sydney say that he's been training the house down and looking very impressive. Well, it's not a bad way to confirm that with 2 goals in the opening quarter of the game.
Is this a positional change or a role change that we can anticipate, or is it simply good fortune that he's been able to find space in the box and finish with a plum on 2 occasions in the first 20 minutes?
Well, I think it's just the way Western Sydney are going to play this season. There's a freedom there because just let this unfold.
Well, straight from kickoff, Ninkovic and Borello. If the flag stays down, it's 3. The flag does stay down, and Brandon Borello makes it 3 in 20 minutes for Western Sydney Wanderers, and they will be in cruise control from here. They've shown their class. They've separated themselves from NPL opposition, and Brandon Borello is seeing the red and black disappear into the night.
Well, this is way too easy for Western Sydney Wanderers. Again, Ninkovic at the heart of it. Great ball into the feet of Brandon Borello, but you cannot be giving players like Borello and Ninkovic that sort of space. No matter what level you play at, you've got to get tight to those type of players in those areas, and this is the perfect start for Western Sydney Wanderers.
And the Alex Tobin medalist from last season. I said the tools were being sharpened. You said they were still pretty sharp. He had the entire goal to aim for there. It was going to be a pretty hard one to miss, and he absolutely slammed it home.
He did, and he used his toe, and it was quite smart actually, because it allowed him to get his leg out of the way as quickly as possible after contact with the ball. So there was no chance of an injury from a sliding tackle at the death.
And now Floreat, their attention will turn from a cup set to simply scoring a goal, you would imagine, and getting to leave with something. There's the possession. Western Sydney Wanderers going at 77.7 so far. Not a surprise, they've owned the ball.
Yeah, well, it'll be damage control for Floreat Athena for the rest of this game. They won't want a cricket score against them. And certainly if they can find the back of the net, that will give their fans something to cheer about.
One player that's not in the lineup tonight, unfortunately, Clark Kelty, the 39-year-old Englishman who played more than 240 times in the Football League for Darlington, and then bounced around a host of clubs, at least a dozen in the UK, before coming out to Western Australia, where he's played for a number of NPL WA teams as well. But, maybe at 39 years old, a midweek cup tie was asking a bit too much when they've only got 3 league games and a cup final, of course, to come. Still a chance to win a piece of silverware this season, Floreat Athena. They'll be taking on the other Australia Cup qualifier, Inglewood United, on the 2nd of September. And that's always a big occasion, the chance to win a trophy. And certainly they'll be hoping to avoid relegation in those last 3 league games as well. So we see Petkov, think back to the chance he had earlier. He's won a free kick here, and so it's a mid-ranger, maybe just beyond shooting range.
He's done well there, Petkov. Just got his body in between the ball and Josh Brillante. As you can see here, he knows what he's trying to do. It's just here where he's brave. Brillante comes in late, gives a foul away. Another chance for the home side from a set piece in decent shooting range.
So the first free kick they had of the night was really lacking. It was sailed out for a goal kick. Will this one find a teammate? Marcelo shouting across the defensive line, and the pass is taken short. McManus drifts it into the box, and Shamaki was trying to glance a header on. High degree of difficulty, and the ball goes out for a goal kick. Noah Shamaki this season has scored 3 goals in NPL WA and also 1 in the cup run through the qualifying rounds. Lawrence Thomas lured out of his penalty area, but the press doesn't appear to be stressing Wanderers too much at the moment. Brillante starting from defensive midfield. Ninkovic, silky smooth through the right side. Look at the speed of Western Sydney. Borello waits for the ball in the middle, and it's a good save to deny him a quick fire double. Hunter's able to make the stop, but the danger's not yet averted as Ninkovic tiptoes through the Floreat defence. Leaves the ball with Beadling, and Hunter is on hand once again, and he's made a couple of good stops.
Well, that'll bring the crowd to its feet. 2 great saves from Hunter. The second one routine, the first one very, very good, but Ninkovic really starting to pull the strings here. Brandon Borello taking up great positions inside the box, as you'd expect. But this early lead for the Western Sydney Wanderers gives them a great opportunity to really work on their rotations, and you can see Brook and Ninkovic interchanging. Jack Clisby on the left-hand side getting over the top, Brook dropping into pockets. It's exactly what you want from a cup game on the road.
Well, Josh Hunter turns 22 next week. I don't think being on the end of a 40-plus shot night was his idea of a birthday present, but maybe the ability to showcase what he's capable of is, because he's made 3 excellent saves so far tonight, even though his defence has also been breached on 3 occasions.
Well, that's the beauty of the cup, isn't it? You can be on a well-beaten side, but you can still stand out, put yourself in the shop window.
Another ambitious aerial challenge there. You see it's winded the Floreat man. Just dragged back to his feet. Petkov by Gabriel Klur. And now he's all right to continue. Brillante challenged by Shamaki. Klur able to take 25, 30 metres and more. Slides it to Borello, who leaves the ball. He wanted to be passive offside. And the ball goes into the side netting regardless. Piraeus not able to test the goal.
Well, he'd be disappointed, Piraeus, a player of his quality, not to at least hit the target and test Josh Hunter once again in the home side's goal. But again, the Western Sydney Wanderers picking up the ball in some really good pockets in midfield. You can see there Borello just playing it smart, leaving the ball for Piraeus.
If that had scored, would you have still said that Borello was interfering with play, even though he didn't touch the ball?
I would have, funnily enough. I thought he was too involved.
So flag may have gone up regardless. What did you make of Piraeus' decision to go to Western Sydney Wanderers? Because he had to wait a long time at Melbourne City. He nearly went to Italy, nearly went to Genoa, stayed at Melbourne City. Then he went to Western United. He's clocked up more than 100 senior A-League games. So he's moving into the prime of his career now. So is this a move for a move to vault overseas like a Callum Nieuwenhof? Or do you think this is a bit of a longer-term investment in looking to win a championship with Western Sydney Wanderers? I'll get your answer at the end of this attacking phase as Clisby starts to make the visitors look a little bit more dangerous. Beadling bides his time. And things calm down with Gerdic. But yeah, Piraeus' move to Western Sydney Wanderers.
I think it's a good one. I think he'll suit their style of play. I think he'll give them a real option down that right-hand side. I'd like to see him really settle and grab this opportunity with both hands and really stamp his authority on the league. He shows it in spits and spurts. Have we seen it week in, week out? Not yet, but I think he can produce that at a club like Western Sydney.
And right on cue, here he is in possession. He's going to double back here, though, and use Brillante. Brillante, wall pass from Borello, flicking on, and the cutback's on. Steele makes the intercept and is able to scramble it behind for a corner kick. Clisby was waiting in the middle there for the cutback, but the defending is done by Ben Steele.
Yeah, again, good little interchange there to put Western Sydney right back. Klur in behind.
They've had a number of corners from this right side as they see it, so the variety comes now in the form of a short corner. Lockie Brook, who's on a hat-trick, is going to hang the ball high here. Marcelo is up, and Borello is there for 4. And the sarcastic applause for the assistant referee coming from Andrew Palmer there would indicate that this time the flag is up and the goal is not going to stand. Lockie Kivas is just making 100% sure here. Of course, there's no VAR in the round of 32 of the Australia Cup. Let's have another look.
Marcelo gets up well. The ball does come off the Floreat Athena defender. Of course, it was played up by Marcelo, so a good decision by the assistant referee.
It's interesting you say fits and spurts about Dylan Piraeus, because I think, Becky, we mentioned Brandon Borello winning the Tobin medal earlier. I do remember a number of games last season where he was picking up the maximum votes. Western United had a pretty inconsistent season themselves, but he was often a standout when they were winning. He was contributing to some of their best performances. And, you know, we know he's quick. We know that he's got great endurance, but he's also shown with maturity and a bit of seniority that he can contribute to goals, he can get assists, and he can really flip the field with how he's able to move the ball as well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think last season when he was good, the end product was there, and that's what we've been looking for from him, because he's got all the attributes to be a fantastic winger and forward. It's the number of assists, ultimately it's the number of assists and goals that will define whether he goes to another level, and he certainly showed it last season that he's capable of it. And as I said, at a big club like Western Sydney Wanderers, where the pressure is on every week to win, create and score goals, I can't wait to see how he stands up to that.
Tell you what, the pressure to win, the Western Sydney Wanderers fans, they'll be, when they saw the tie away to Floreat Athena, I'm sure some of them would have remembered those not so happy late nights away to Perth Glory last season. They lost both games. They lost one at Macedonia Park, they lost the other one at HBF Park. I think both times it was 1-0. Keegan Jelicic in one of the games, and then the return to HBF Park where they conceded in stoppage time, as that ball from Clisby is volleyed over and Borrello slaps the turf because he can see a bag full of goals coming his way tonight with some of the chances on offer.
Certainly can. It just came a little bit too quick to him in the end, but some great combination play down the left-hand side. Brook and Jack Clisby getting over the top. Great delivery. And as you can see there, just in the end, the ball came a little bit too quickly for Borrello, and that can be a timing thing. Obviously very early in the pre-season still. First meaningful game. Just takes a little while to get your dial in.
Of course, the game at HBF Park was when Aaron McInnes scored in stoppage time after there'd been a red card in the very first minute for Perth Glory, and then a later red card for Wanderers, and the match finished 10 versus 10 with Perth Glory getting the win. So I'm sure all the Western Sydney fans that are watching on will be relieved and happy that they have this cup tie well and truly under control, and they can now just get a nice look at how the team is shaping up for potentially what's coming in later ties and the season ahead.
Yeah, I was on the microphone for that game when McInnes scored that dramatic late winner for Perth Glory. Incredible scenes, an incredible game of football, really.
And so we've had a bit of a calm after the storm, which was a couple of Wanderers goals in quick succession, but they continue to dominate possession. Of that there is no doubt. They've brought their own ball to this one tonight. Clisby through the left channel. Underlapping run from Brook. He's trying to turn provider here, and it's turned behind for another corner kick.
And again, this is stuff that would have been worked on the training pitch. The rotations between the players in those wide areas. Clisby and Brook on this side. Of course, Piraeus on the other side. Piraeus plays more as an out-and-out winger. So it gives Cleur the chance to sit a little bit more as a zonal right back and get forward when he wants to.
Brillante has seen the opportunity to play the quick 1-2 from the corner, and now in all sorts of space. This is for the hat-trick. Brook gets blocked. Gurditch has stayed forward, and Brook's going to get another chance here. Does he fancy himself for a third? He's going to wheel away from the penalty area. He's got the ball glued to his feet, waited for the run on the outside from Cleur, and it's been scrambled away. Gabriel Cleur throws it into Beadling, and they've overcooked that, Western Sydney. It'll be a Floreat ball.
The other advantage of Western Sydney's signing of Josh Brillante is those games that he played with Milos Ninkovic at Sydney FC.
Speaking of Ninkovic, here he is. Waits for the run of Clisby. He's got the defender caught in two minds. Clisby flashing it through the box, and Piraeus, the finishing touch wasn't there. It skews wide and out for a goal kick. That perhaps should have been number 4.
And once again, that man Ninkovic right at the heart of it. Picks up the ball on the edge. Look at this for Smarts. Just holds the ball, waits for the overlapping run of Clisby. Uses it as a decoy to start with, and then plays a perfectly weighted pass into his path. That understanding that Brillante and Ninkovic have from their Sydney FC days together, Teo, that's going to be invaluable this season for Western Sydney Wanderers. Josh Brillante covers every blade of grass on the pitch, knows exactly the positions Ninkovic takes up, can play between the lines. And Ninkovic just makes everyone around him look so much better.
And a bit like the in-season edition of Morgan Schneiderlin last campaign, do you think there is still more to be done as far as recruiting is concerned for Western Sydney?
Yeah, I do. They've got 3 visa spots still open.
Ninkovic threading it through the right here, and that's good keeping from Hunter, seeing the threat of Piraeus and clearing it into the crowd.
And I don't think it'll be too long until you see at least 2 out of those 3 filled. I know Marco Rudan likes to get his players in as early as possible so he can work with them on the training pitch. The addition of John Paul de Marini, of course, as his assistant coach, stepping up from the academy this season. And loads of experience. JP, good to see him back on the bench.
Well, it's time for them to join the title contenders this season. I think everyone's anticipating that post Patrick Kisnorbo, the relentless winning machine that is Melbourne City in the home and away season, will ease up just a bit. and you won't need to be anywhere near as flawless or near perfect in order to contend for the Premier's plate this coming season. And you look at the massive overhaul of the Central Coast Mariners. We're going to get our first look at them on Sunday. So the defending champions are going to have a totally new look team. Even just today, they announced the departure of Maresh. So yet another championship winner leaves the club. And I think there are, we always see teams vault from outside the top 6 into contention, or at least into the finals every season. But you'd think that the established hierarchy of last campaign would all be thinking, except for Melbourne City, that the Premier's plate is far more attainable. I mean, we see the departure of Floreat Athena from Melbourne City today as well, meaning that their champion, or their premiership winning team of the last 3 seasons is starting to be eroded.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the grand final showed that as well. The dominance of Central Coast Mariners over Melbourne City on the night. That wasn't just a grand final loss. It was it had hallmarks of a changing of the guard as well. So Rado Vidicic with a massive job this off-season, as we see the foul on Brook. Screen in screen. Lockie Keevers has had a good game so far. I think he played a huge role in calming things down, as did Western Sydney, getting a couple of early goals, of course. You don't want these sort of games to get out of control.
And as Wanderers continue to own possession, we're into the last 10 minutes of the first half, and the game currently very comfortably in their keeping. You wouldn't fancy that they might not add a 4th or a 5th even before half time. Might have to start reaching for the record books if that's the case, and just to have a look at what the biggest differential in the national rounds is. I know that the Northern Territory teams unfortunately have been on the end of some heavy defeats over the journey. NPL WA's not had the happiest time in the Australia Cup. So often, funnily enough, they don't send teams that are high on the ladder to the national rounds. This season, they've sent us the teams in 10th and 12th, as we see Borrello in the middle. Time for a touch. And for the second time in recent minutes, that right side netting rather than the back of the net is where the ball ends up.
He'd be disappointed there, Borrello. It was a fantastic sweeping move from end to end. With Piraeus set free down the right-hand side by Milos Ninkovic. He found the feet of Borrello. Just wonder if he could have taken his first touch inside rather than outside to give himself the whole of the goal. But some good early signs, the way Western Sydney are knocking the ball around, some of their rotations in the wide areas. Ninkovic with plenty of time and space in midfield to get his eye in.
Ninkovic again, feeding the ball back into the centre circle for Brillante. He's insistent on where Donny Gerdic goes and runs before he plays the pass. And now Clisby. Well, looking at the other scores around the grounds, Mossy, it looks as though it's going to be a pretty tough night for teams hailing from the smaller states and territories. We'll come back to that in a moment, because Piraeus here drops the shoulder, creates space, and Ben Steele has had to make a number of vital interventions to keep the score at 3. Is once again on hand to turn it behind for a corner.
His change of pace, Dylan Piraeus. Watch this. Just off he goes after Burners on. And unfortunately just couldn't pick out a teammate on that occasion. But he can be such a weapon in those wide areas. Loves getting one-on-one. His speed, his pace, his power to get into good areas.
So they've had plenty of practice with corners from this right side. Marcelo darting around, wants to be on the end of this header. He was surrounded by 3 opponents. Ninkovic with the aid of a deflection, which is then cleared away by Fuller. However, his defending is not yet done. Beadling on a tight angle, and he misses. Borrello, the follow-up, is lashed into the woodwork, and that would have been the Lockie Brook hat-trick. And instead, Floreat are able to survive. Somehow the ball stayed out. Western Sydney did everything but score on that phase of play.
Well, I'm sure Josh Hunter will be wanting his posts and his crossbar to come to the rescue anytime they want to tonight. And that's an occasion where it did. Look at this, great feat by Beadling. Just plays it across goal. That is a hell of a strike on the right foot too.
That would have been his hat-trick inside the first half, Lockie Brook. And he's back working hard as we tick into the last 5 minutes of regulation. Here he is now on the ball. A little side step to open up the pitch, but he's going to go backwards.
That'll be another one to look up, Teo. Any hat-tricks, first half hat-tricks?
He's got 5 more minutes as he wins a foul here. So around the grounds, Apia are 3-1 up against the Golden Valley Suns. It was 3-0, but they've pegged a goal back with 10 minutes to go. Western United are about to knock Edgeworth out 4-0 up late in the second half. So sadly, that'll mean no more teams from Northern New South Wales NPL, because we said goodbye to Broadmeadow Magic at the weekend when they were knocked out by Sydney United, and now Edgeworth are about to follow. And the Tasmanian representative, Devonport City, they're 1-0 down to the Gold Coast Knights. So we've already said goodbye to the team from Canberra. Canberra, Croatia were knocked out by Mount Druitt Town in the opening night of Cup ties. And so hopefully we don't lose the Tasmanians as well, because that would mean WA, Northern New South Wales, Tasmania and the Capital Territory all out at the round of 32. And sometimes they are the... I think we're due for a team from one of those 4 federations to go on a deep cup run. And I think if they all get knocked out in the round of 32, we'll be overdue, Mossy, for one of them to go on a cup run.
Yeah, that's right. They certainly do bring the romance of the cup to life. Those types of clubs. The less we have in the competition, the less chance there is for romance and cup sets. All the things that bring this wonderful Australia Cup to life.
As we see Beadling get himself up and dust himself off. And don't get me wrong, it's not just beating an A-League team. If Canberra, Croatia had beaten Mount Druitt Town in the recent games a few days ago, or if Devonport City can get back and knock out Gold Coast United, that's just as big. As we see a foul here for Krista Delakis. And I mentioned WA not having the greatest history in the Australia Cup for their qualifiers. We have seen Canberra Olympic make it to an FFA Cup era semi-final, but we're yet to see an NPL West Australian team really bring the competition to life and go on a run of their own. And I think they're the last state we need to tick off to have one of those magical runs. Unfortunately, barring at least a 3-goal comeback tonight, 2023 is not going to be their year. Here's Jack Clisby. Brook, it's been his first half, 2 of the 3 goals that Western Sydney Wanderers have netted. Ninkovic to Clisby. Now Brook. Coming back in the other direction, McManus bit off more than he could chew against Beadling. Oh, and then he went chasing after the ball. Referee didn't reach for the whistle though. Petkov, he's able to buy a foul though. And it's a free kick late in the half. And Gerdich is perhaps right to ask, what about the challenge there from McManus? But it's Floreat's free kick.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's grabbing his shin there, Gerdich. A little bit sloppy here, but it's that tackle there. It's a dangerous tackle. As soon as you raise your studs, Sean McManus. I don't think it had any real intent to hurt anyone. It can be dangerous nonetheless. As we see Phil Arnold over the ball again. Another set piece in a good area, good delivery here, could cause some problems.
Well, a goal here for Floreat would at least send them into the rooms on a high. It's a bending free kick dealt with by the first header. Petkov tries to bring it down. Couple of half-hearted shouts for handball. And it's not a penalty, it's a free kick right on the edge of the box. Well, this is in shooting range. It's not quite the penalty that Floreat Athena would have been hoping for, though.
And Dylan Piraeus ran away. He didn't have his poker face on, did he? As the ball gets cleared into the air, it's just there. Gets played onto the arm of Piraeus by Robert Petkov. He ran away hoping that the referee hadn't seen it.
So now a direct free kick. Western Sydney Wanderers are placing the wall. It looks like Ludo Boy has pulled rank here. The Mauritian standing over the dead ball. Can he finish the first half in stoppage time with a goal back for the home team? There's going to be 3 additional minutes to end the first half. This is Floreat Athena's moment. And into the wall, which does its job. The follow-up from McManus. And it takes a big deflection out for a corner. And it wasn't the free kick they were hoping for there from Ludo Boy.
No, I think he was trying to get it up and down over the wall into that near post. I think he would have been better served going for the far post. Didn't have a lot of room to get the ball up and down. But again, it's a set piece gone begging.
And so a high ball. Steele is up, challenging Lawrence Thomas, and that's a confident claim from the Wanderers keeper. He launches a counter-attack. Piraeus was the man on his bike making the run. Second ball is there for Brook. Space aplenty for Wanderers to break into here. And Floreat are going to have to scramble back to stop Ninkovic now. The cross finds Klur, and Klur was in an offside position.
Just offside there. This doesn't look good.
No, Ben Steele has gone down. He's had a strong first half given the amount of defending he's had to do. But in his desperation to chase back Gabriel Klur here, he's gone down with, unfortunately, what looks like a knee injury. And he is writhing in pain.
Yeah, and the position of his knee that he's grabbing doesn't augur well either. I'm just not sure if he went down. Oh, yeah, he's gone down. Oh, that's ugly. That is very ugly. He got his studs caught in the turf. It wasn't an impact injury at all.
Well, you can't help but worry for Ben Steele. Let's have another look, Mossy.
Just there. So it's his left leg. His ankle gets caught underneath the weight of his body.
So Adrian Spinelli, the team physio, is going to be helping Steele walk off under his own steam at least. But you do wonder if they're going to have to make a precautionary sub here rather than let him risk any further trouble for that knee, especially when it's a little unstable.
I hope he's all right, but judging by those pictures we just saw, I'd be amazed if he gets back onto the pitch. The full weight of his body was over his ankle and knee, with studs caught in the turf in an awkward position.
Stoppage time nearly up. We'll see if the referee does add on a little bit more due to the injury that's come in these additional 3 minutes. Fuller protecting the ball. Christodoulakis now swept away by Boy. This time it was Beadling's turn to go crashing in, but he's on a yellow card, so he knew to perhaps roll out of the way and yield, and that's good work again. Petkov's been able to show he can win a foul when he protects the ball.
Oh, that was really good feet from Robert Petkov there under immense pressure in midfield. He wormed his way to a little bit of freedom and then got pulled back to draw the foul.
Let's not forget, Floreat are down to 10 men at the moment to end this first half. McManus's ball in. Shamaki is there. Good first touch. Not able to spin onto a shot, though, and the cutback can't find a teammate. Brown Montgomery taking on 2 Wanderers defenders. But 3 was one too many, and he went for a bit of bash and crash into the penalty area, and he is going to give away the foul. The fans can't believe it, but I'm not sure what he's got to complain about here, Mossy. He went absolutely crashing in here, and it created a cannon effect.
Well, that's kamikaze. That's what that is. It's just throwing your body into an area that you just don't need to. He could have come off second best there. Lawrence Thomas copped it. Look, there's absolutely no chance of him winning this ball. Grdic tries to protect his goalkeeper, but there's just too much force from Bailey Brown Montgomery. And I don't know what he's got to argue about, because he was never winning that ball.
And so now we've played 4.5 additional minutes. It's almost like the 2 longest stoppages of the half came in stoppage time itself. But we have seen enough here, and Western Sydney Wanderers have laid down a marker. 3-0 up by the 20-minute mark, and that scoreline has held to the break. Lachlan Brook with a quick-fire double, and Brandon Borello converting one of a number of chances that fell to him in that first half. And so at the break, it is Floreat Athena 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 3. And let's take a look, Phil, at the highlights, because Western Sydney Wanderers wasted little time asserting themselves on this contest.
Well, that's right. And you're going to see Brook, you're going to see Borello, you're going to see Ninkovic at the heart of most of these highlights, and that man there, Dylan Piraeus as well. this left-hand side has been humming for Western Sydney Wanderers. Brook got himself on the score sheet twice early. And look at this, Beadling's been good in midfield as well. And Ninkovic so creative in those areas. You cannot give him space. And that man, Brandon Borello, has picked up where he left off last season. Sharp in front of goal. He's been sharp in general play as well.
And so what do the numbers tell us that the 3-0 scoreline doesn't? It really is so skewed in Western Sydney Wanderers' favour.
It really is. It's been a professional performance from them. They've had to weather an early sort of physical onslaught, if you like, from Floreat Athena. But I think they've been very good at what they've done. Western Sydney, they've got their rotations going well in wide areas. Milos Ninkovic has been taking up good positions in midfield. They've been finding him with passes that break the lines. And then, of course, in front of goal, they've scored 3. They could have had 6 or 7. And Lawrence Thomas really hasn't been tested in the opposition goal.
Well, stay with us here on 10 Play. We hope you're enjoying the Australia Cup coverage. And we'll be back with you for the second half shortly. Stay with us.
players must refrain from any disorderly conduct or conduct that may injure the reputation and goodwill of Football Australia and current football generally. Any person who does not comply with the spectator code of behaviour or who otherwise causes a disturbance may be evicted from the venue and may be banned from attending future matches. Is a fun introduction to football for girls and boys aged 4 to 11. It's a great way to learn football skills and have fun with your friends. Register with the Oracle Club today to play football at www.miniroos.com.au.
Welcome back to live pictures from Kingsway Oval, where at half-time of this Australia Cup tie, it is Floreat Athena 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 3. Lachlan Brook, the new signing from Adelaide United, where he wasn't a noted goal scorer, coming up with a double, and the reigning Alex Tobin medalist Brandon Borello with a goal of his own. Great to see some mini-roos out there enjoying the bright lights of an Australia Cup night. The future of Floreat Athena. Let's take a look at the goals from the first half. Phil Moss joins me in commentary, and Phil, it was an early goal to set the tone, and then after some meaty challenges went flying in, Western Sydney were up 3-0 by the 20-minute mark.
Yeah, that's right, they were, and some poor defending, there's no doubt about that from the home side, but some good combinations from Western Sydney this early in their preparations for the new season. And you always want to see your strikers and attacking players getting on the score sheet in these games. Milos Ninkovic pulling the strings. And of course, that man there, Brandon Borello, taking up where he left off last season, but also, as you mentioned, Teo, Lachie Brook making a real impact in his first appearance for the club. And that will give all his teammates a lot of confidence as well as himself.
Here are the numbers again. We've been discussing, Phil, Marco Rudan's substitution strategy. They haven't taken the full bench over West tonight. In fact, they do only have, as far as I can see, 5 outfielders to choose from. Jared Carluccio, Oscar Priestman, Marcus Eunice, Zach Sapsford and Marcus Antonsen added to the bench as well. Do you think we see all of those outfielders? A number of them have been playing high minutes in NPL New South Wales, where Wanderers have actually been involved in a bit of a relegation tussle just to avoid the Pro-Rel playoffs. So they've got a couple of competing priorities that they need to take care of at present.
Yeah, they certainly do. I wouldn't imagine he'll empty his bench at half-time, Marco Rudan, but we may see a couple of changes. It'll really come down to how much load he wants to put into that starting 11, how many match minutes they need based on their preparation so far and their training loads and so forth. But I'd imagine by the end of the game, most of those players on the substitutes bench will be on the pitch. But it's nice to have that luxury at 3-0 up at half-time. He'll probably want another goal pretty early on just to really put it to bed, and then give some players a rest and some other players some match minutes.
As far as how you juggled your squad, competitive games, friendlies, high-intensity training sessions, you've been there, you've organised an A-League pre-season. How would you think that Marco Rudan is balancing it at the moment?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's the start of the season that's all important, of course, but you know, for the position that Western Sydney are in and making the finals for the first time in 6 seasons last season, this cup competition is really important to them. We saw with Tony Popovich when he went to Melbourne Victory, winning the cup was really important in how he wanted to rebuild the club. It didn't go so well second season, but the cup certainly propelled them to a good first season under him, and Marco Rudan will be looking for similar, no doubt.
We've already sorted out 7 of our qualifiers for the round of 16 so far. Back on the weekend, it was Broadmeadow Magic 2, Sydney United 58-4. Northeast Metro Stars of South Australia 5 defeated Inglewood United of Western Australia 0. Wellington Phoenix of the A-League defeated Peninsula Power of Queensland 2-1 after extra time. And Mount Druitt Town Rangers of New South Wales defeated Canberra Croatia of the ACT 3-1. And then in the games that kicked off earlier tonight, Phil, Goulburn Valley Suns fell 4-1 to RPL Leichhardt of New South Wales NPL. Western United of the A-League 4-0 winners against Edgeworth of Northern New South Wales NPL. And the Gold Coast Knights, coached by former Socceroo Scott McDonald, defeated Tasmania's sole representative Devonport City 1-0. So, as we discussed during the first half, not the most romantic set of results so far. We haven't had any A-League teams knocked out, and we also haven't had any of the teams from the smaller or less successful state federations get through, as we see a bit of activity on the bench. And we can tell you that it looks as though it's a sub to replace the unfortunate Ben Steele from the first half. Mohammed Al-Zaidi is going to be coming on for Floreat Athena, and we will bring you up to speed with other substitutions. It looks like potentially Josh Belante, or Noah Shamaki's night is over, depending on which number 25 was coming off there. We'll let you know as soon as possible. But unfortunately, Ben Steele, suffering what looked like a pretty serious knee injury at the end of the first half, is unable to continue. That's Robert Petkov, who certainly did some good work for Floreat in the first half. And we're just about ready to get the second half underway. Can Floreat grab themselves a goal? Can they make it interesting out there? You see Bailey Brown Montgomery, who was not afraid to throw himself around in that first 45. And there is the halftime final little powwow taking place before we get the second half underway. So it's Floreat to kick off, attacking the left of your screens in the second half, in a 3-0 hole at present. And I can tell you that Josh Brillante is still out there, so we can take it as read that it might have been Noah Shamaki that came off at half-time for Floreat Athena. Will get you his replacement. It looks like Nicholas Ambrosio, the number 10, and the second top scorer in the league this season, albeit only with 4 goals for Floreat Athena, has come on as part of a double change at half-time. And we can only hope that Ben Steele has not suffered too serious an injury to rule him out for the rest of the night. So, expectations, what did Floreat, do you think, say in the half-time team talk, Mossy?
Well, I think they've got to find a way to put a little bit more pressure on Western Sydney in the right areas. If they go and press too high, of course, they won't have the legs for that, and it'll open up too much room in midfield, which was
well, second half starting like the first. That was a full-blooded tackle, and Lockie Keevers, the referee, is going to come back here and whistle for a foul.
Yeah, we saw from Lockie Keevers he wasn't afraid to reach into his pocket early in this game, and he'll do the same if he has to in this second half. I think Floreat Athena just have to focus on their defensive structure and try not to let this score really blow out in this second half. But great to see Marco Rudan stick with the same 11 in this second half. Was what got their team to a 3-0 lead before the break. He'll be wanting to get some more minutes into their leagues now. It's a great opportunity.
And you see there wasn't quite the same level of blow up there about the tackle, but picture in picture here, Mossy. Thankfully, it's because there was not as much contact made, but that could have been so much worse had it actually collected the leg of Jack Clisby.
Yeah, and I think Clisby did well to protect himself as well.
So that ball is headed out for a goal kick.
As a player, you know when those challenges are coming in those areas. It's always good to get your foot or your leg out of the way as quickly as you can.
Confirmation.
The referee do the rest.
Sorry, Mossy, confirmation there. You can see Steele off and Al-Zaidi on. Ninkovic. Plays the 1-2 with Piraeus. Now Marcelo switching flanks. Clisby takes the ball in stride. Not able to find Borrello as he forced it on. Maybe now the counter for Floreat. Not to be. Clure in the right place. And Brillante consolidates possession.
Well, it's a shame there for Floreat Athena because Robert Petkov had a great opportunity to release a player on the left-hand side. He was just too slow to sort his feet out. And Western Sydney closed the ball down quickly, regained possession. Well, it's certainly a slower intensity to the start of this second half as it was to the start of the first half, start of the game. We've seen one challenge fly in, but that's about it.
There's the other change confirmed. It is Nicholas Ambrosio who's come on for Noah Shamaki, who just couldn't quite get himself into the game as the centre forward in that first half. Here's Piraeus on the right, playing the return ball to Brillante, lifts across, and Hunter is able to rake it in without anyone from Wanderers really challenging him in the air.
Couldn't quite get his toe around the ball there, Brillante, but it's a trademark run from him in the space left by a fullback going to press the ball. He picks his time so well with those runs. Brillante has become famous for it in the A-League men's competition.
And this is Ambrosio trying to put a bit of pressure on. Donny Gerdich not happy with the way that Ambrosio was snapping at his heels. Wanderers able to move the ball cleanly. Borrello through traffic to Ninkovic. And now Clisby. Crossfield pass from Beedling, finds Clure, great first touch. Good close control, Piraeus. And the ball loops out for a corner. That deflection could have gone anywhere, and just like the first half, Western Sydney Wanderers winning a lot of corners. Dylan Piraeus is going to be one of the designated players to stay back on a corner kick, just to guard against the counter-attack. And so 5 minutes into the second half, Marcelo is looking for one of his teammates to provide him a bit of space, a bit of a screen. He's able to get loose. Oh, and he did win the header, but he's not able to put it on the target. But that was well worked there from Western Sydney to get their big man free. And they recycle the ball. Brillante plays it to Ninkovic. And Ninkovic, he can change the pace of the game at will, but he's happy to leave it slow at the moment. Borrello. Neat little back heel. Borrello parried, and he'll be first to the rebound, will he? No, the goalkeeper, Hunter, is able to recover and dive on the ball.
We did well there, Hunter. It was a sharp save down low, and he had to regain his feet and scramble to that ball before Borrello charged onto it. Very good goalkeeping.
Was a case there where on the first step of acceleration, it did look like Borrello was going to get there first.
It was an awkward trajectory of the ball for Hunter to deal with. It bounced at a very awkward length.
Clure spending plenty of time in the attacking half now, and he's able to win a corner for his team. Defensive work being done by Phil Arnold, who hasn't been able to get himself into a goal-scoring position in the game so far. And over comes Lachlan Brook to take the corner kick. So we saw Marcelo very cleverly use his teammates to get free, lose his marker, and make a near post run on the corner a second to go. Let's see how they mix it up now. Oh, bending right onto the gloves of the keeper, so not quite the delivery they were hoping for. And the counter-attack might be on. Here's McManus. He's breaking into open space here. And then he's closed down by the backtracking Brillante. So the thrill was short-lived for Floreat there.
Just another example of Brillante and every single blade of grass that he covers on a football pitch.
Oh, an errant pass. Floreat are in here. Oh, Lawrence Thomas saves once, but he can't save twice. Celebrations for the home side. Floreat Athena get a goal back, and Nicholas Ambrosio, the halftime sub, is the catalyst that gets us a contest.
Well, talk about impact off the bench and talk about overplaying and taking your foot off the pedal. Western Sydney Wanderers are the masters of their own demise there. But Ambrosio off the bench shows why he is known for scoring goals. It was disappointing the way Western Sydney Wanderers gave the ball away. It was disappointing that Lawrence Thomas couldn't hold the first shot. But Ambrosio there, look, takes full advantage. Lawrence Thomas will be very disappointed with that whole passage of play.
He'll be both elated and relieved, Ambrosio, because let's be honest, he should have buried the first chance, and thankfully for him, Lawrence Thomas was only able to parry it back into his path. It's his 7th in all competitions this season for the 27-year-old. And after scoring the match winner against Curtin University and also scoring against Jaguar in the qualifying round, he now has a goal in the national rounds to his name, and he'll never forget that moment.
Yeah, fantastic moment. Give the crowd something to cheer about too and go home saying that they saw a goal scored against an A-League side. And of course, it just gives them a wee sniff, just a little sniff. It certainly doesn't look like they've got enough gunpowder to get themselves back in the game, but there is a wee sniff.
And now, will that sharpen Western Sydney up, knowing that a 3-goal cushion has become 2? Here's Borrello, and the width of the post was the difference between 4-1 and the current scoreline.
And not for the first time tonight, Borrello's seen a strike go just past that far post. His awareness absolutely fantastic. Look at that, first touch takes him away from the defender, opens up the half a yard to get a strike away. Not far at all. But the one thing Marco Rudan, I'm sure, would have hammered home at half-time is to keep the intensity high and keep that professional performance from the first half consistent. And that passage of play that gave Ambrosio the opportunity to score was anything but.
So just a little fly in the ointment for Western Sydney Wanderers. Only 10 minutes into the second half. I tell you what, if they get it back to 3-2, there are upsets, and then there are upsets coming from 3-0 down at half-time. I don't even dare speak it into existence at this point, given the gulf between the two sides, until that shot hit the back of the net and everything changed. Here goes McManus, running down the right-hand side, and he's able to lose one defender with a shimmy. He gets body checked by Clisby, and he's been absolutely ironed out for his trouble.
Well, isn't it funny what a goal can do? It just seems to give you an extra man on the field. Shoulders go back, chest puff out. All of a sudden you've got players like Sean McManus taking on 2-3 players down the right-hand side and drawing his team a foul.
Well, he's the namesake of a very famous Fremantle docker, Sean McManus. Looks nothing like the former AFL player who was the brother of Rove, or the cousin, I should say, of Rove McManus. But he certainly knows how to run with the ball, and he's lining up inside the penalty area, right at the penalty spot here. Ambrosio to take the free kick. He's scored one. Can he turn provider? It slides on, and the spectacular attempt from Petkov sadly bends into the hands of the goalkeeper.
Well, now they're bringing out the party tricks. Great delivery and a great effort there from Robert Petkov to get it on target. Very acrobatic. Was never really going to trouble, as we see the replay of that delivery. Not dealt with very well by Western Sydney Wanderers, straight into the path of Petkov. And that is great athleticism and technique.
Free kick here for Wanderers, taken quickly by Beedling, the element of surprise. Parias waits for the underlapping run from Klur. Red alert here for the Floreat Athena defence. Lunging into the header was Beedling, and the ball is scrambled away. It's an open game. The tempo is going up just a little bit. Floreat are playing with belief, and a scrag here from Clisby. Surely will be sanctioned with a booking. Indeed, Lockie Keevers reaches for his pocket. That was very much a professional foul to stop the counter-attack. And Jack Clisby becomes the second Western Sydney Wanderer, following Tom Beedling into the book.
Well, it's a silly foul. There's no need for Clisby to commit that foul. There was plenty of numbers back. They're the sloppy moments that have the domino effect in games like this. And all of a sudden, one sloppy moment leads to another. You cop a goal, and then sometimes you can cop a second. And it'll give Floreat Athena real confidence to see this starting to creep into the Western Sydney performance.
Will Marco Redan turn to his bench? We're almost at the hour mark. That is so often the time when substitutions start to be enacted. Tell you what, Vaso Vujicic would be happy with how his team has responded to both the halftime team talk and the contribution of his subs so far. One of them forced, of course, after the unfortunate injury to Ben Steele. So we see the foul here committed by Floreat's one player on a booking, Alex Christodolakis.
You'd say it's been a more measured start to the second half by the home side. They've sat into their block a little bit more, a little bit more disciplined with the way they've defended.
They've got a sniff here. You can just tell they're giving us their last real burst of intensity. How much will they have in the legs, though, as we see the ball chested and protected back to the goalkeeper here? One of the things about the Australia Cup that so often led to upsets in the round of 32 was that it would be the first competitive game, often off the back of only a week or two's training for A-League men's teams. But this season, the round of 32 is falling at a pretty important time in the NPL campaign for a lot of teams. Even Apia Leichhardt, who defeated the Goulburn Valley Suns earlier tonight, have just started to look over their shoulder in the title race, and they've got a cup final to think about, and you start actually having to juggle your squad. You don't put all your eggs in the basket if you're worried about relegation, as potentially Floreat are, or a title as some of the other teams are, or a final series. It becomes like any other cup game, really. It's, as we see the ball here claimed out of the air by Hunter. And in that respect, it has just become a very normal part of the football calendar rather than the biggest game of a club's existence.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, the beauty of the Australia Cup is it pitches semi-professional football against professional football and gives everyone a shop window. So it's a wonderful competition, and you know, as you said, it's becoming part of the vernacular now, which I think is fantastic. It's got its rightful place in the ecosystem of Australian football, and it's a coveted trophy.
Very much so in the case of Wanderers, because they've never been to the final. They've only ever been knocked out by the eventual champion on one occasion. That was Melbourne City back in 2016. Those two met in the quarterfinals on that occasion. They've been to the semi-final twice. They actually lost a home semi-final to Adelaide United in 2017, and then were emphatically beaten 3-0 by Sydney FC in the semi-final in 2018. And then in more recent times, they've actually had two of their worst results. Round of 16, lost to Apia Leichhardt. You might remember that miraculous Tynan Diaz goal a couple of years ago in 2021. And then they didn't even make the round of 32 last season. They were knocked out in the qualifiers by the Brisbane Roar. Here's Piraeus. Now Brillante. Clisby. And Piraeus is outpointed in the air. Floreat will sweep onto the ball, but they haven't cleared their lines just yet. Brown Montgomery loses possession, and the pressure stays on. Piraeus to Ninkovic. Able to make space where there wasn't. And now Brillante consolidates on the ball. Clisby leaves it as the ball runs over to the left and Wanderers retreat. But yes, last season their league position meant they had to play in that qualifying round, and they lost at home to the Brisbane Roar. This season, of course, making the top 6 in the A-League meant they didn't have to play a qualifier. They automatically got through to the round of 32. As we see Brook here herring after the ball, but McManus will beat him to it.
Yeah, I was at Leichhardt Oval that night for that Tynan Diaz goal for Apia Leichhardt. Fantastic night. There's been so many fantastic nights in this Australia Cup. Previously the FFA Cup, of course. But as coveted as the trophy is, the Mike Cockrell medal as well is up for grabs for the player adjudged to be the best of the competition. Mike Cockrell, of course, the late great journalist and commentator, a great friend of mine, and many of us in the game here in Australia. I remember having copious cups of coffee with Mike at cafes around the northern beaches in Sydney, talking about how great it would be to have a wonderful cup competition. I'm sure he's looking down with a big, big smile on his face.
As Wanderers set up this free kick. Of course, Mike Cockrell's, one of his great legacies is the commentary of the Green Gully goal that beat the Central Coast. And you hear it now in the intro to every Australia Cup game. Boland, Boland, Boland. It's the perfect way just to get you in the mood for a cup tie, frankly. I think it's the perfect soundbite to remind you of what we're watching. What we might be watching here is Lachlan Brook standing solo over a free kick, going for his hat-trick, and it's bending off the wall, and it's hitting the underside of the crossbar. And it would have been his hat-trick, instead it's a corner.
Well, that is every goalkeeper's nightmare, isn't it? Wicked topspin from a deflection. As Josh Hunter backtracks to try and make sure it doesn't nestle in the back of his net for a Lockie Brook hat-trick. Look at that. He was beaten in the end.
Corner kick, in-swinger, Hunter uncontested, able to parry it away. And Floreat first to react. Given the amount the ball deflected off the wall, would it have still been Lockie Brook's goal, or would you have set an own goal?
No, that's definitely his goal. It was on target. Still his goal. I think the only reason it would be taken off you is if it wasn't on target and was deflected in. I would have been very disappointed if I was Lockie Brook and that hit the back of the net and he wasn't awarded it.
You can see that line of players in green bibs there at the top of the screen of Western Sydney Wanderers subs as we see picture in picture again. Just the dip that came down late, and Hunter was at full stretch, and here's Borello, and right when he needed his first touch, it abandoned him, and that lets Floreat off the hook. Wanderers are pressing for a fourth here, and they are pressing to absolutely seal the deal in progression to the round of 16. But still, Floreat in with a puncher's chance. You see possession there, 80% to 20. They very much are limited to the counter-attack.
Yeah, and a fantastic night for Western Sydney with regards to just being able to get their dial in with the ball, plenty of possession, get their rotations happening, ball speed.
Beadling intercepted here. Fuller's done well. Pass right up the middle, but Marcelo too strong. Knocking Ludovic Boy off the ball.
The disappointment for Marco Rudan, of course, will be conceding that goal. Maybe the way the team has come out in the second half. Look at that pass accuracy, 91% to 58%. Really, it was the lack of accuracy that created the goal, wasn't it? For Floreat Athena.
There's a miss-hit pass from Marcelo, of all players, and now it gives a chance to Brown Montgomery. He's going to take on Marcelo. He's going to swing it in on his left foot, but he hung it too close to the keeper. And I tell you what, he had a couple of players there advancing down on the 6-yard box. There was a better chance than it looked there for Floreat to try and sting on the counter-attack after Marcelo's pass just left the door ajar. They won't go away, Floreat. They have shown a lot more here in the second half.
Yeah, there's the delivery again. That was comfortable for Lawrence Thomas. If he just wrapped his toe around that, as you said, Taylor, there was a couple of willing runners in good areas.
However, at the other end, Wanderers are looking to find space. Borello attracting a crowd wherever he goes. Piraeus, and that is a hearty slide challenge coming in from Christodolakis. I tell you what, he must be experienced at playing on a card, because after he really could have, if not should have, been sent off in the first half, he has still thrown himself about in midfield. We've got a substitution about to take place here. This is Ethan Mom who is coming on, and Ludo Boy, who has really struggled to get into the game. Very much like Noah Shamaki in the first half. The Floreat attack is not really prominent in the contest, so his number is up. And it is going to be Ethan Mom to come on, but perhaps ominously, he has not scored a goal in either the league or cup this season. So if he is to find the back of the net tonight, he would certainly be an unexpected hero.
Well, he wouldn't be the first unexpected hero we've seen in the Australia Cup, so this could be his moment. You never know, fresh legs, what they're capable of.
Certainly could be a necessity as the game goes on. There we go. That Boy is replaced by Mom.
Love it. Now all we need is for Phil Arnold to play a ball to Andrew Palmer.
So, Floreat hunkering down, watching Western Sydney Wanderers with 80% possession for the game, waiting for a window of opportunity to sting on the counter. Western Sydney Wanderers happy to own the ball.
Wonder how long Rudan will wait before he goes to his bench. That's coming approaching the 70th minute mark now. And whether he'll go for mass changes or trickle them in.
Long string of passes, but yet to really enter the attacking third here for Western Sydney. Looking for the right gap that takes their fancy. Borrello, bit of contact after he played the pass. And again, Western Sydney have to retreat. Maybe the left flank is more to their liking. Clisby, well, an underhit pass, and McManus makes the intercept, and that allows Floreat to exhale. There's the XG. Wanderers shooting right on it, which more or less means they maybe have created more chances and should have scored even more. And Floreat Athena, 1 goal from 0.15. So opportunistic, successful, at least in that respect. Beedling plays it to Klua. Brillante hurried in the pass. And Gurdic sets Ninkovic a task, and he's having to backtrack. If anything, that's lured a couple of Floreat players out of the low block up the pitch, and maybe now there'll be some gaps to exploit. Borrello doing exactly that. Great control off the chest, but not quite the power he needed in the volley.
It just wouldn't come down for him after taking the ball well on his chest. And again, a wonderful passage of play from the Wanderers. They moved the ball very well to fashion that opportunity for Borrello.
Ninkovic in the territory he knows so well. He uses the referee as a screen. That was clever. Borrello from the right side, the chop step back heel, but it's gone straight to 2 Floreat defenders. And now with the aid of a deflection, it ends up in the gloves of the keeper. For Ninkovic, he was crafty there. He knew exactly where Lockie Keevers was standing, and he used him to block the opponent chasing him.
Brilliant. And shouldn't be surprised when it comes to Ninkovic. It's so good to see him going around one more season at least. I think this may well be his last season. He did struggle with some injuries, which I thought may have brought his career to an end. And having spoken to him a couple of times through the season, you could just sense the hunger was still there to go around again, and I think he's had a very good off-season.
Is he going to get that first league goal in red and black? I think the fact that that evaded him last season surely meant that he felt like there was unfinished business. Never mind a trophy, never mind team success, just the fact he didn't hit the back of the net for them.
Oh, look, I'm sure he's got a goal in him, Ninko. He's one of the best professionals I've had the pleasure of working with as a coach, and best people. He's a fantastic person as well. I know some at Sydney FC may disagree, given the acrimonious circumstance of his departure. Oh, you can't argue with what he's brought to this A-League.
Here's Clisby now into the keeper's hands. You know what, I don't mind it, because anything that increases the rivalry, adds another chapter to the story, and just gets people excited about those A-League fixtures coming. The chance to watch Milos Ninkovic in red and black, and the Sydney Tifos last year were pretty spectacular. Sydney Derby again promises to be something special this coming campaign. Next break and play, I've actually got a question for you about Sydney FC. We haven't touched on them. Of course, they're playing this weekend down in Wollongong on Sunday against the Central Coast Mariners, but they had a big announcement today, which we will get to. Right now we're with Josh Brillante on the ball. And this is a real slowdown here. You can see the ball speed almost grind to a halt. And now Jack Clisby not overly keen to pick it back up. Beedling. Wanderers are preparing a sub. Klua. Again, didn't like his options down the right, so he turns inside, where the very deep sitting defence from Floreat means that Wanderers have got free players. And as things slow down, what did you make today of David Zrilic joining the coaching staff at Sydney FC, former Socceroo?
Look, I think it's fantastic. Steve Corica will no doubt know that he just needs to breathe a little bit of freshness into the dressing room and the ideas around how they want to play. And Stevie, I think he's done a fantastic job at Sydney FC, taking over from Graham Arnold, what he's won in these last 5 seasons. But I think Zrilla, with his experience now being overseas and the level that he's coached at and the coaches that he's coached under, I think he's going to bring something absolutely fantastic to Sydney FC. And they needed, obviously, with the loss of Wilkinson to retirement, Lafondra replacing a little bit of experience. And Driller played for the club. He won a title at the club, so he knows what the club's about. And of course, Luke Bratton now taking the armband from Alex Wilkinson. So I think it's exciting times for Sydney FC.
Of course, you can check out all that latest A-League news on Keeper, the league's official website. It continues to tick over. I know the country's got World Cup fever, but as soon as full time goes on the final, the A-League is going to be in full swing and ready to capitalise on just about everyone in this country playing, watching, experiencing football in one way or another through this magic month. But are we going to get just a little bit of magic of the cup here, or a Wanderers going to nail a fourth? They've dominated the ball for the last couple of minutes. Floreat have barely touched it. And Western Sydney Wanderers, after working this defence from side to side, can they now find the key to unlock it? Klur swings in across, and there's no one home after it cleared the head of Brook. However, recycled over on the left. Clisby gets another chance, hangs it high. Ninkovic chests it down, looking for a teammate. He leaves it behind with Brook. Now Piraeus, we know he's got a burst of acceleration in him, but he was stood up well there by Christodolakis. And even though Floreat can't keep possession, at least they repel once again. And that will prompt the first substitution of the game for Western Sydney Wanderers. We've had to wait until the 74th minute for Marco Redan to turn to his bench. It's going to be a change as well for Floreat too, but we're going to see Marcus Antonsen come on. One of the new international players for Western Sydney Wanderers this season. But first, we've got the sub for Floreat as well. Robert Petkov has run himself into the ground. He's done a lot of physical bullocking work at the centre forward tonight. Milos Ninkovic runs over and takes his lead for Marcus Antonsen to come on. And we've got the sub going through here for Floreat Athena as well. Jesse Roberts comes into the game. I can tell you that Roberts scored the one and only goal against Balcatta Etna in the qualifying rounds for Floreat Athena. So he does have a goal in him. The ball's down the wrong end of the pitch at the moment as far as the home team are concerned, but at least they're bringing on someone who has been able to contribute to their journey to this round of 32 tie.
Yeah, no surprises to see that man we were just talking about, Milos Ninkovic. This is the first one rested for Western Sydney Wanderers. Redan will be thrilled to see him get through 74 odd minutes unscathed. You know, he did cop a little bit of a knock early in the game. That first challenge seemed to shake that off nicely.
So Antonsen, certainly well travelled around the Swedish league, but had a stint at Leeds United, Blackburn Rovers. Most recently has been playing in Saudi Arabia with Al Adala. And don't forget, this is called a segue here, Phil. Don't forget, you can enjoy the Saudi Pro League now on Paramount Plus. It's, of course, becoming the busy home of so many of world football's superstars. But don't forget, the Russian League, 3 matches a week, is live and free on 10 Play as well. So, I don't know, regardless of how you feel about Saudi Arabia taking over football and spending a heap of money, you can watch it live and free on 10 Play.
And there's some players worth keeping an eye on in that league now. There's so many millions of dollars being spent to bring them over to the Saudi League.
I mean, we've only got 14 minutes to go. If we were heading for extra time, we might get into the chat about what it means for world football and the various implications. But if nothing else, it's football that's trying to grab everyone's attention, and you do have a means to watch it in Australia to see what it's all about, thanks to 10 Play, which is also, of course, your home of the Australia Cup. And this match, Western Sydney Wanderers have done an expert job of managing the game here, Phil. Floreat Athena have barely completed a pass for 5 minutes now.
Yeah, they have held possession well tonight, Western Sydney.
Here's Piraeus looking for the knockout punch. And this is hat-trick time for Lockie Brook. He gets his third. It's almost like his teammates have been looking for him to set him up. And the arrival from Adelaide has certainly announced himself in style in red and black. A hat-trick for Lockie Brook makes it 4-1.
Oh, he deserves this, and Piraeus does very well here. He looks up, he knows where Brook is, and Brook takes a good first touch to get the ball out of his feet and open the angle for him to slot it past the hapless Josh Hunter in the goal for Floreat Athena, and that is a hat-trick that is very well deserved. He's been fantastic tonight, Brook. I gave him a shout out at the start of the game as we just see him coolly, calmly slot the ball past Hunter. But those in the know at Western Sydney have said he's been training very, very well, looking sharp. What I've liked tonight is not just what he's done on the ball, but his positional sense as well, and how he's taken up those positions in the pockets inside. He's played outside as well. His rotations have been good. Timing of his positioning with Jack Clisby on the left has been very good as well.
And so the fourth goal prompts a double change here for Western Sydney Wanderers. Beadling, who's been on a yellow card since the first half, is going to come on here. And young Zach Sapsford, former Sydney FC junior, who has switched to Western Sydney Wanderers and scored a number of very impressive goals for them in the NPL this season, is on. And that is Oscar Priestman, who actually started the NPL season at Sydney FC before getting the opportunity for potentially a faster road into the Senior A-League with Western Sydney Wanderers. A couple of players who I've seen a lot of in NPL New South Wales, Mossy, and they are so promising, these two. Sapsford an attacker, and Priestman very much a box-to-box sort of midfielder. So let's see what they can do with 10 free minutes, and it seems as though the subs have immediately injected a new lease of life into the game.
Well, Marcus Antonsen was there for a tap-in there. A little bit of confusion with the subs, which is to be expected this early off the bench. But Antonsen will be absolutely filthy. He didn't get the chance to get his name on the score sheet then.
Borrello not able to keep the ball in. That'll be a Floreat ball with just over 10 minutes of regulation to go. And the press is going to win possession back in a high area. Here is Priestman. Spins and plays the ball back to Kluwer. All the way back to Lawrence Thomas for a rare touch in this second half. He's been a virtual spectator, the Western Sydney Wanderers goalkeeper. Other than picking the ball out of his net, he hasn't actually been forced to make a save tonight.
Well, Beadling didn't grab any real loud, flashy headlines tonight, but I thought he put in a really good shift in midfield next to Brillante. Just did the grunt work. He did some really good work with the ball. Short and long range passing. Tidy performance from Beadling.
Priestman. Back to Gurditch. Lawrence Thomas, well and truly outside his penalty area. Keeper sweeper roll. Floreat getting interested in a press here, but that allows Kluwer to bypass more than a few with that ball. Here's Antonsen. Swings it across, and even though Sapsford was free at the back post, he didn't quite make ground in time. He'll go and retrieve the ball. Zach Sapsford slides it underneath. Clisby into the box, and Antonsen is stuck behind his marker on that occasion. Brought down nicely by Brook. Here's Borrello. You can just see that Wanderers have stepped it up a gear, almost like the shout has come from the bench. Don't let this one peter out. Get something out of the game. Get your GPS numbers up, lest we make you run shuttles at the end of the game. Here comes the ball in from Clisby, and he's put a little bit too much on that as it clears all and sundry in the penalty area.
Well, I think the fresh legs off the bench also do that. It just lifts the intensity, and you've got young kids who are chomping at the bit for their opportunity, and the boss gives them the go-ahead to run onto the pitch in a meaningful game like an Australia Cup game. And the whole experience for them travelling with the first team, seeing how the senior professionals prepare themselves.
Borello cut back, Antonsen, and it's deflected wide. A series of deflections. It'll still be a corner kick.
Yeah, good play down the right-hand side as well. On that occasion, again, Borello, he just doesn't stop, does he? And Antonsen, so unlucky with the deflection out for a corner, but he's looked lively, Antonsen, since he's come on. Looks in the mood.
He's taken up a position on the near post here. Corner to the edge of the box. It's Lockie Brook. Oh, it's 4 for Lockie Brook. Bit of dynamite in the boots there. And the left-footed attempt from the top of the penalty area. The big kibosh. And it ends up in the back of the net for 5-1.
Well, that's the goal of the night right there. That is a wonderful strike from Lockie Brook. Technically absolutely perfect. As you can see, the rolling ball coming back to him, keeps his head down, puts his foot through it, but it was calm, it was cool, it was measured. He knew exactly what he was doing, and that is a well-deserved strike from outside the box. Lockie Brook, hasn't he put his name up in lights tonight?
Well, 4 again. This is incredible. When you're hot, you're hot. I'll tell you what, that one kissed the underside of the crossbar. And as much as Josh Hunter has been busy tonight, there wasn't much he could do about that.
It's almost a little bit disappointing when you score a goal like that for the 5th in a game and you can't run to the crowd and celebrate, because that's a wonderful strike.
And the number is up for Bailey Brown Montgomery. And Luke Ryan is coming on here. Western Sydney Wanderers are also bringing on one of their young guns, Marcus Eunice. And he has fantastic close control. He's a born competitor. And he has flair off the charts. He loves to do the spectacular, Marcus Eunice. He's one of those players that on his day can change a game single-handedly. And he's been doing it against men in the senior NPL. So even though he's young and he's had a bit of injury history, he's come on for Brandon Borello here. They've got big raps on him as a future prospect.
You'd like to think with a surname like Eunice, he'd be fit as well. No doubt a relation to Ray Eunice, who is the strength and conditioning coach for Western Sydney Wanderers. I'll have to do my research on that, Taya, to know whether it's a son or a nephew.
Right now, Floreat enjoying a rare little bit of possession. We mentioned that Western Sydney Wanderers had turned up the heat at the 80-minute mark, and we're just trying to increase the tempo. Can Floreat grab a goal back? 5-2 would certainly look like a fun night out, when the reality has been that they've been starved of possession. They've created one chance and taken it, but it's been slim pickings otherwise. This is Krista Delakis. He had dreams of glory breaking down that left side, and now Mom, with a touch, has trapped it in the attacking third, and he's won a corner for his team. And so Floreat now starting to give it a go.
The point where they had nothing to lose was a long time ago. It's good to see them still having a go at the back end of the game.
Ball brought down here by Al Zaidi. Out to the left, not the touch that they needed there, and Eunice consolidates. Eunice. Oh, he went for the outside of the boot there, living up to the billing straight away, but it was blocked by Fuller. Gabriel Kluwer was the player that came off for Marcus Eunice. Just 18 years old and only turned 18 last month.
I'm reliably informed, Teo, as I knew I would be, that young Eunice is in fact the son of the strength and conditioning coach at Western Sydney Wanderers, and I do remember chasing Ray Eunice in the old National Soccer League. He was quick, he was powerful, he was very, very hard to catch.
Who did he play for?
Parramatta Power was one of the clubs. I think he might have played for Sydney United as well at one stage.
Well, one of Eunice's best games in the NPL this season was against Sydney United. He's trying to turn provider here, and it's turned behind for a corner in even just a couple of touches. he's not going to pass up this opportunity to show us what he's all about. And that's desperate defensive work there from Andrew Palmer to put it behind for a corner kick.
What about this for a family as well? My informant tells me that Eunice has a daughter who is a gun and will play for the women's team next year, aged just 15. So keep an eye out for that, Teo.
Yeah, hey, I'm up for any A-League women's transfer, Goss, so there you go. Thank you, Mossy. I'll put that one in the memory bank. Here's the corner, in-swinger, paddled away. And now knocked back out for potentially a second ball. Brook, 4 goals to his name, trying to turn provider, and that one goes just wide of the post. Well, Antonsen, he's definitely wanting to get in on the act here, the Swede, but he's not able to add to this Wanderers tally. And so Western Sydney Wanderers, their name will be in the hat for the round of 16 now. We're halfway to determining our 16 qualifiers for the second knockout game of the national rounds. Of course, a number of A-League teams, as we see picture in picture here, the chance for Antonsen just didn't make the contact with conviction that he was hoping for. Brook, oh, wiped out here, and no card, just a free kick. But I flagged that we have plenty of fixtures rolling through the week. Of course, tomorrow night, the action continues. Get your thoughts on these in a moment, Mossy, as we tick towards stoppage time. But right now, Sapsford puts it onto the head of Fuller, who clears away. The ball is held up by Al-Zaidi. But tomorrow night, Moreton Bay United against Heidelberg United. That's going to be fascinating. Queensland against Victoria. Do you have a tip in that one, Mossy?
Oh, I'd have to go with Heidelberg, I think, in that one. They're a big club, a fantastic club, Heidelberg, for many, many years. So I'm going to back them in.
And then it is also Victoria against Queensland down in Melbourne. Melbourne Knights against Lions FC. So bragging rights on the line for those two states as they go head-to-head.
Melbourne Knights at home.
And then you are on the commentary team for Hellenic of the Northern Territory up in Darwin against Inter Lions. So I'll allow you to stay impartial, other than to say it's time. It's time for the team from the Northern Territory to win a game in the round of 32, and I desperately hope Hellenic Athletic are able to do so. But Inter Lions, Daniel Georgievski's team, so you just never know. They come out of the second tier in New South Wales. They're not a top division club, so I think they'll be loving a midwinter trip to Darwin. I think they'd love it more if they win.
Question is Georgievski fit?
I mean, he was pretty important getting them to the round of 32. He scored the goals that knocked out Rockdale along the way, so you'd think so. As we see Floreat looking for another goal here, and Lawrence Thomas is able to pick off that cross as we tick into 4 minutes of additional time at the end of the night. It seems like a fool's errand to even ask you who the man of the match is, Mossy. Surely this man on the ball right here with 4 goals to his name.
Hard to go past him, not just for the goals, but overall performance has been very good in a team that's performed well tonight, apart from a couple of sloppy periods in the second half, but you expect that at this time of the preparation for the new season. But Marco Rudan, no doubt, will have plenty of highlights to pick from on the video, and granted, the opposition didn't put up too much of a fight, but you've still got to play what's in front of you, and I think they've done that very well.
And now tiring legs will be tested again, but McManus, he has not dropped his colours all night. He's there to defend Antonsen and put the ball out for a throw. On Sunday, you've got a double bill. Oakley Cannons taking on Melbourne City in an all-Victorian affair at 2 p.m. at Jack Edwards Reserve, and at 3 p.m. you can watch both games on 10 Play. Sydney FC against the Central Coast Mariners. That is from Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. So if you're in or near the Gong and you love high-level football, you can go and see Sydney FC take on the defending Isuzu Ute A-League men's champions, the Central Coast Mariners. And of course, last season, Mossy, those two met in the round of 32. It was 3-3. Sydney FC won on penalties. It was one of the best cup ties you could ask for. So hopefully we get something similar on Sunday.
Yeah, I remember that one well. And it should be a cracking game on Sunday down there at Wynn Stadium. It's a beautiful football venue right on the ocean down there in the Gong. And I know both clubs have been, they're deep into their preparations now. They've been training very, very hard. And of course, they'll still have to get a little bit of ring rust out in a game situation.
A bit of acrimony here over 2 balls being on the pitch, but as one of them is booted away by Josh Brillante, the referee's not even going to stop play. This is going to be a weird-looking highlight if it ends up in the back of the net, because here goes Sapsford through the left, and it's stroked in. High five for Lockie Brook. He has had the night of his life. He can't believe it. This is extraordinary. It's 6-1 to Western Sydney Wanderers, and Lockie Brook has been on the end of 5 of them.
Well, look at this for a sweeping move from Western Sydney Wanderers. Jack Clisby does really well. Lawrence Thomas picks him out in midfield. That's a great way to pass there. And the ball slid across. And who else but Lockie Brook to cap what is a wonderful night, and no doubt writing his name in the record books for this wonderful cup competition that is the Australia Cup.
And Zach Sapsford there showing that the youngsters on this Western Sydney Wanderers bench, they are not taking anything for granted. They have actually come out and they have put the pedal down. They have kept the intensity high. If anything, they've lifted it, because Wanderers have finished with a flourish here, and the scoreline now perhaps reflects their dominance in the game, 6-1.
It's exactly what you want from your youngsters coming off the bench in a game like this, in a situation like this.
As we see Lawrence Thomas slide out to the end of his penalty area, 1 minute of additional time to go. So the other 3 ties in the round of 32. Monday night, you can see all 3 on 10 play. Campbelltown City versus Macarthur, the defending champions, of course, and the cup holders. Newcastle Jets against the Brisbane Roar in an all A-League clash. And Northcote City against Adelaide United down in Melbourne, looking for the cup set. So that's the round of 32. The draw will take place on Monday night for the round of 16. And I don't think too many people will want to run into Western Sydney Wanderers based on what they've shown us here tonight. Do they have one more in them for the road? In the final minute of stoppage time, Antonsen played through by Sapsford. Look at Marcus Eunice. He's making ground in the middle. And the pass splits the difference. Not able to find the target or the teammate.
It was one stride too long, or too many, I should say, before the ball was delivered into the path of Eunice. He made a fantastic run through the middle, but just couldn't be found.
That'll do it. Western Sydney Wanderers go west and win 6-1. Lachlan Brook has had the night of his life, scoring 5 of them. And Floreat Athena, who did score first in the second half, just to breathe a bit of life into the contest and add a little bit of intrigue, didn't have the answers after Western Sydney Wanderers turned to their bench. Full-time, Floreat Athena 1, Western Sydney Wanderers 6. And Phil Moss, as we head to the highlights, Lockie Brook is just going to clip this one up and get his agent to send it all around the world, because he managed to put 5 in the back of the net.
I was going to say, it's not really the highlights, it's the Lockie Brook show. But yeah, look, overall a very good performance from Western Sydney Wanderers. Ninkovic key to that first half 3-0 lead. And of course, Borrello played his part. But Lockie Brook, what a night he's had. One he won't forget. As we see Borrello put his toe through the ball there to get the ball past Josh Hunter in the Floreat Athena goal. And here's the goal that brought the crowd to their feet. It was a fantastic effort there from Floreat Athena substitute Nick Abrosio. But Lawrence Thomas, I'm sure, will look back on that with disappointment that he didn't hold the first shot and gave the ball away in the beginning. But it was all Western Sydney Wanderers. And there he is again, Lockie Brook. He will put his name in the record books tonight. But a performance overall that Marco Rudan can be very happy with. Professional. His players showed that they've got about 65 minutes in their legs. That's when they started to get a little bit fatigued. But that's okay. That's something to build from. And here's the strike of the night. Look at that for technique. Lockie Brook outside the box. Ball rolling into him, which is not easy to keep down at the best of times.
And I think the youngsters that came off the bench will show that they'll be capable of going on a good run in this Australia Cup, given the match sharpness and the hunger of the substitutes that came in to reinforce them tonight.
Yeah, I think so. That's exactly what the coach would have asked from off the bench, and the youngsters stood up in what was a very important win for the club as well, because it takes them through to the next stage.
That's an incredible passing tally, 885, Phil. I mean, they brought their own ball to this game, and Floreat spent so much of the night chasing shadows.
Yeah, well, that's what you want in these games as an A-League coach and an A-League team. You want to have plenty of possession so you can start to get your sharpness around your touch and your decision making and the weight of pass in the top third, and you want goals, and that's everything that Western Sydney Wanderers got tonight. And touch wood for Marco Rudan, no injuries out of it, doesn't look like there were, so I'm sure they'll pull up well.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the coverage on Network 10 here tonight. Don't forget, it continues tomorrow night. Phil, you'll be back with that Hellenic Athletic versus Inter Lions tie. So we'll hear from you in about 24 hours' time. But on behalf of the entire crew here at 10 Football, my name is Teo Pellizzeri. Thank you for your company on this one, and we leave you with the scenes of celebration as Western Sydney Wanderers enjoy their big 6-1 win.